Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adobe Live 2022 edition. My name is James Bonanno, and I will be your host this afternoon, this morning, whatever time zone you are on. And I am joined by Daniel McMahon, also goes by Dodford on all the socials. Daniel, welcome to Adobe Live.
Thank you, James. Nice to be here.
And yes, welcome to everybody in the chat. I am very excited to be hosting again this year. Welcome. Paco, welcome the whole gang. It's gonna be an awesome time. And before we really jump into everything, Danny, I guess I'll address you as Danny. Maybe you want to kind of run us through what we're going to be working on today, and maybe give the audience and the people in the chat a little bit of context into who you are as a filmmaker, as a creator, as an artist.
Sure. Yeah, I'll give the whole rundown on who I am. My name is Danny. I'm 21 years old. I've been a video editor for about 10 years, non-professionally and now professionally, but I've been a content creator for roughly a year. I have the whole film school background. I went through university, I graduated last year, and I always wanted to make movies. I wanted to have like a very conventional route up into the industry, but my passion for editing kind of in the past year has kind of derailed a little bit, and now I'm very more interested in the whole social media, short form content type of thing. So about a year ago, I started this TikTok page called Dodford, and it began as just editing tutorials, for cool techniques, interesting effects, anything I liked. And it was a way of helping others strengthen their editing skills. Since then, it's kind of developed further than I initially expected. And now it's, I make things on all things filmmaking, analysis of a scene. I do color grading, things like in history, anything I find interesting. So, all in all, now my content is just mostly anything I like making, but with a strong focus on editing and presentation. And the key word there is presentation, because I think you can really make anything interesting if you focus on the editing and presentation. So today we'll be talking about like ways to make a simple video captivating and keep people interested on TikTok specifically. Awesome. I guess I'll go straight into the project file. This is
before we get into everything, Danny, I just want to remind everybody in the chat, welcome Wenzel, Steve, Food of Al. It's great to see everybody again. And yeah, everybody, again, I'm really happy to be hosting this. For those that are new to this kind of format, if you would like to follow along, please head over to behance.net/Adobe Live, and there will be replays on YouTube as well. So just trying to get a little housekeeping out of the way before we start here, Danny. And maybe before we hop in, let everybody know where Dodford comes from, because we briefly chatted about that before we got into our chat here.
Yeah, Dodford doesn't really have a strong emotional connection. It is just, maybe I shouldn't give this away, but it's the street name I grew up on as a child, Dodford Lane, and it was a username I had from the age of like 12 or 13. So there's no escaping it now. It's my name on everything, and now it's kind of become my brand.
That's great. I love how those things sort of just stick. I mean, that was like the first thing that I noticed, and I think you've done a great job branding thus far. And I have taken a look through your TikTok. And before we get into it, I guess I had a question for you in like shifting into more of the short form TikTok videos, which is what you're going to be actually creating in these next 2 hours. Do you feel like having a platform like TikTok and these social media platforms has actually like shifted how you create, or has it actually allowed you to create or maybe like step out of the box a little bit more because you have this platform to share these types of videos?
That's a very good question. I do think if this had never birthed, I wouldn't have been editing in the way that I am doing now. And because being a content creator, you have to be constantly making things, putting things out there. It meant that I was in front of Premiere Pro, a minimum of 7 hours a day for the past year. And so just inherently that is going to strengthen your skills beyond anything you'll even imagine. So definitely having this sort of platform, it pushes you forward. And specifically TikTok, because you have to make everything so captivating immediately in the first 5 seconds, it tests you as an editor. So it's a really great exercise.
Yeah, I love hearing that. I think I mean, social media can often get a bit of a bad reputation, especially now where, you know, I think the older generation, or sorry, yeah, the older generation doesn't really understand why TikTok can be so useful. And I think as an editor myself and as a content creator, it does. TikTok can certainly push your limits a little bit and really test you to create something that's short and concise, but also gets the same point across that you might be making in a longer form YouTube video. So it is a really great exercise.
Yeah, it's a good challenge.
Awesome. All right. Well, Danny, with that being said, again, everyone in the chat, please continue to leave questions. I will be moderating the chat as Danny just continues to make some really compelling TikTok content. We do have one question actually before you get started. Do you edit on the go, or do you edit on your mobile phone?
No, not really ever. I did a couple months ago. I tested out, most of the mobile editing apps because I never had, and I was quite impressed with most of them, but I've not touched them since. No.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I'm a bit of a traditionalist when it comes to sitting down at a computer and editing in Premiere, but I do know a lot of people edit on their phone. My wife is actually one of those people. That's kind of how she's learning. So I'm like, okay, well, that's one way.
They are quite powerful. Yeah, they impressed me.
Awesome. All right, Danny, well, take it away, man.
So, okay, the project we'll be working on today, it's one that came to me yesterday because I watched the new Spider-Man movie just 2 days ago. And so it's fresh in my mind. And I thought it would be interesting if we recasted Spider-Man No Way Home as if it was shot in the 1980s. So I've gone through and, well, yesterday on my Instagram, I did a poll on my story, and everyone chose their favorite actor to play each role in Spider-Man No Way Home. So this video it's just me. I've already cut up me talking. That's all it is right now. But in this, we will be adding the actors on top, doing loads of interesting effects, just to make it a bit more captivating. I guess, we'll tuck into it. So at first, okay, it's kind of embarrassing actually doing this, seeing it in this form, but I think I might just play it through in its raw form. Don't judge me whatsoever. But this is just what it is. Looks like straight out of the camera.
This is a safe space.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, good.
No Way Home. As an 80s movie, I asked 1,000 people who should be cast in an 80s Spider-Man movie. Let's take a look. First up is Happy Hogan. The options are John Goodman and John Candy, both lovable, larger-than-life characters, but the poll went with Mr. Goodman. Next up is Aunt May. We have Audrey Hepburn and Julie Andrews. Two very different directions here, and it was close. Audrey Hepburn as Aunt May. What about MJ? We have Molly Ringwald and Lisa Bonet. Again, each bring something different here, but you guys liked Lisa Bonet. Doctor Strange. The flamboyance of Goldblum or the ruggedness of Dalton. I was hoping for Jeff here, and you guys delivered. Jeff Goldblum as Stephen Strange. Here's a good one. Norman Osborn by Martin Sheen or Sam Neill. The poll went with Sam. I can see it. Let's go really different. The iconic J. Jonah Jameson, played by Robert Duvall, or Danny Glover. A resounding result. Danny Glover as J. Jonah Jameson. And finally, what you've been waiting for, our boy Peter Parker. Michael J. Fox or Matthew Broderick. Matthew Broderick as Spider-Man.
Okay, so that's the full 59 seconds.
And you have like the most incredible voiceover voice. It's just, I mean, I know the microphone does help, but like I will have to say one thing, and I've done this on a couple other streams, like giving kudos to people who actually have a very good voice for voiceover, and you certainly you have it, man. It's awesome to listen to.
I appreciate that. So watching this, you can tell immediately that it needs a lot of work. You wouldn't be able to post this on its own. So I guess the first thing I want to do is we can talk about, so this is the opening title screen.
No Way Home. As an 80s movie?
So I guess, well, we'll work it out on the go. I've got a rough idea of how I want this title screen to work. Usually I try and make them very flashy, punchy, using the right like text and font from the source. So I have the Spider-Man logo here.
So can I just back up for 1 sec? So this idea just sort of came to you based on a poll, or like you had put that poll out because you knew that, okay, like this is an idea that I have that I want to create a video out of that I think will be really compelling and sort of viral?
Yeah, the video idea came to me yesterday, but then I thought I would add some interactivity to it by putting it on my poll. And so now throughout, you see I mention the results of the poll, and that's what drives the actual selection of the actor.
Cool. Very cool.
Okay, so for this, I think I want it to say No Way Home, and then flash in with like as an 80s movie with like a spider web behind it. So first thing I'll do is I'll add the invert effect to this Spider-Man shot, like so. This will make the text white.
Cool.
And then add the crop.
Now, are those like preset effects that you put in there that you
This
label
is
as
just
Dodford?
oh yeah, these ones I made. I sell these on my website as well, but that was just
Cool.
the stock invert effect. Now I did the crop just to take out the Spider-Man parts because I don't think we need that.
And Danny,
Okay.
keep on working here. I'm gonna throw some questions your way. It seems like the chat is very engaged today, which is great. So lots of questions for Danny today. So the first one is, where's your cool mic from? So I think everybody wants to know where that microphone is from and what the brand is.
This is a Shure MV7, I think it is from. Well, I got it from Amazon. I just bought myself for a Christmas present.
Yeah, it sounds great. And for anyone who's interested in voiceover or podcasts or any kind of, professional audio, I know that those Shure mics are pretty fantastic. And then another question from Sully in the chat is, what does SDC stand for? They've seen it throughout your editing.
Sully is a friend of mine from school. SDC is a Call of Duty clan from way back in the day, and it is just my friends Sully, Danny, Callum. That's the answer.
That's awesome. All right, Sully. So Sully knew this one already.
Yeah, he's lying to you.
He cheated. Laura has a question. How much time approximately do you devote on shooting and editing one TikTok video?
It depends. I can sometimes record and record a video in the morning and have it up in the afternoon, but usually it's between 2 to 3 whole days of editing. Like this will take, I won't be able to finish this in 2 hours today, probably not.
Well, I think it's so interesting that, just because it's short form content on TikTok and social media, some people use TikTok in the way where they do it on their phone really quickly. But, over the last few years, I guess, or however many years TikTok has really started to blow up, not even a few years, it seems like the amount of work that creators like yourself are putting into those TikTok videos, isn't just these quick frills. Like you're spending the time that you would on a YouTube video or a professional video just for TikTok though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just because a video is 59 seconds long doesn't mean you've put a minute's worth of work into it.
Yep, absolutely. Could not agree more. Okay.
So I'll just mention what I've done here quickly.
Yep, please.
I've added a bit of animation to this text simply by using the basic 3D effect. So all this allows you to do is you can rotate it in 3D space. So I've set some keyframes, one where it's 90 degrees away, then it comes and over rotates, and then it swings back to its original position. I selected all 3 keyframes, right selected and click Bezier, just to give it some smoothness. Yeah, that's a good way of just making some text feel a little bit more fluid. Okay, 80s.
I love that graphic.
Yeah, quite retro.
So Anna wants to know, do you storyboard your ideas before editing?
No, not visually. I usually make like a Google Docs file and write down basic notes. I'll script everything down word for word. And then if I feel like it needs some strong if I feel like I need a strong idea visually of what everything needs, then I'll make like a Google Doc folder and throw random notes in there. But no, I don't storyboard.
Do you feel like just getting started? Like I'm kind of similar to you in that way, where I feel like the most productive I can be is just getting into Premiere and really starting to build it. Do you kind of agree with that mentality too?
Yeah. And to be honest with you, this setting up for this today has been difficult because usually I just work things out as I'm doing it, but today I've tried to be a premeditated editor.
Yeah. You kind of have to work backwards a little bit on Adobe Live, and you're like, oh, I'm going to teach this method that I have right now that is my own sort of method. So great questions, guys. Yeah, keep them coming. And Danny, as you continue to work through this, feel free to break things down as specific as you want. I mean, we have all levels of editors and creatives on this chat, so nothing is too basic. Excuse me.
Yeah, this 80s text I just made in Photoshop. I just Googled 80s layer styles and downloaded the first one and applied it to some text. It was pretty simple.
And it kind of works perfectly.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay, so No Way Home 80s movie. I think this needs, so if I'm going to have it above me, then what I'll do is I'll make an adjustment layer and make sure it's got the adjustment layer label. Okay, what I will say quickly, I'm going to track back a bit. So first of all, this sequence is 1080 by 1920 for TikTok, but the most important part is the organization when you're inside the project. I've got 4 main bins: video, sound, image, and sequence. Sequence is just where all the sequences lie. And inside these it's very important to organize it all. Otherwise you're going to struggle later on down the line. As you can see inside my video and image bins, I've got more bins to be even more specific with what I'm looking for, because if you find you don't do this, then you'll pay for it later on.
Yep.
Okay, so I've got an adjustment layer here, and I want to add some blur. Gaussian blur is my go-to. Yeah, that'll do. Okay,
now, did you make the conscious choice in filming yourself, holding the microphone, that A cam shot, to like look a little more 80s, or is that just a shirt that you rock most of the time? Because I like it either way, but it seems like it fits the vibe.
It wasn't a conscious decision. No, that was the shirt
Okay.
I put on today and then took off for some reason.
Well, it's a great shirt.
Maybe I didn't feel it was professional enough.
Well, and I kind of like the you got that, the pink Spider-Man in the back, and I mean that color.
Yeah,
color
that was
as
a
well.
decision. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay, so it gets blurrier. I'm also wanting to make it a bit darker, so I can keyframe the exposure to go down to about here. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So No Way Home is an 80s movie. I did find this very cool web, where is this? Over this web overlay thing that this was just on YouTube, and I'm gonna throw this in underneath it all, just to give a bit of extra Spider-Man touch. Full it to fill frame.
Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, you have so many themes to play with in this too. I mean, you have Spider-Man, you have the 80s, you have, just this sort of spoof piece, so you can kind of create the style around, the topic that you're talking about here.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to make It's great to make videos on. That's why people shouldn't like put themselves in a hole or in a corner as a content creator. It's so much more inspiring and easy to make videos when you're doing something different every single time.
That's such a huge point. I often find that I even like am like, I've put myself in a bit of a box. And so doing something like this is not only super fun to watch you create, but you're right, it's great exercise. And for any other creatives out there and editors and photographers, but specifically in this context as a video editor, exercises like this not only teach you different techniques, they teach you different, effects and text techniques, but it really does like push you creatively in a way that I think this is the only way that you could actually do that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so how's this looking? So I want to add this same swivel animation to my second text, and that's easy. All I can do is just Control C, the first one, right click this and hit paste attributes. I don't need the invert and the crop or the motion or opacity, just the basic 3D. And that should have just added the same thing to this one as well.
Awesome.
So I'll just quickly sequence render this just to get a vibe of how this is looking.
Seb in the chat wants to know if you plan out how many videos you're aiming to make each week or month, or if you sort of just roll with it.
I wish I was that organized. No, it's really
Don't we all?
I usually don't really know what video I'm making until like 2 days before it.
Awesome. Yeah, in a way that's kind of cool though. I think we all have these, I mean, I speak for myself here, but these high aspirations and dreams of like being hyper organized when it comes to videos, but it really doesn't come down to that. You sort of strike when the iron's hot and when creativity sparks. And I think those those videos are the best results, right?
Yeah, exactly. People who have creativity, at all times, they're either robots or I don't believe them. So you've got to make videos when you feel like when you feel like it. You can't. I don't like to force myself either.
Yeah, it's a huge topic, especially as you begin to be paid as a creative and be paid to create videos. It's really tough to feel inspired all the time, and if you're on a deadline, like you have to get something done. But in this case, like making this for TikTok and really building your brand gives you the luxury to create whenever you really want to create.
Yeah, exactly. It's the greatest job.
It really is.
Okay, I'm just adding a little 80s VHS kind of effect over the top here. I'm just going to scale it up to fill the frame again. Okay.
We have another question. What is the diagonal line he made to the spiderweb layer? What's that for? I believe if you're talking about the opacity layer, right?
Diagonal. Do you think he means this?
Are you talking? Yeah, if you're talking about this VHS layer here, Anna, that's I believe that's an opacity keyframe, or that's a keyframe of some kind here.
Yeah, they might be talking about. I added a mask to the inside of this spider web just to hide, just because it felt like there was too much going on here.
Gotcha.
So I've just hidden that part.
Yeah, and any of those lines that, if you're just joining us on this chat, any of those lines that you see on each of these layers, that is just another, it's a shortcut or it's a way to add a keyframe directly on that track. So whether it's a position keyframe, opacity, scale property, you can adjust all of those right on that actual clip.
Exactly. Okay, so
sweet.
I'm liking the way this is looking.
Yeah.
I do think we can take it a little bit further. So this 80s is jumping out at me because it just feels a bit flat. So I'll use this as an opportunity to perhaps plug one of my presets. I'll show you what it does. So I've made these glitchy text effects last year, and they're mostly made up of just things like wave warp, VR glow, chromatic aberration, and you can just drag and drop them on anything really, but it work well for text. And you'll see if I just render this out again. Hopefully it shouldn't take that long.
And these are available, Danny. These are available on your website as a preset effect pack.
Yeah, danielmcmahon.co.uk on the shop.
Awesome.
So yeah, this is what it looks like now. Much better.
Yeah, so much better.
Okay, I do want to make that a bit bigger because the motion has got keyframes now. I can add the transform effect, just to make it a bit bigger again.
I think one good piece of advice as an animator, and I had heard this years ago from a friend of mine who's an animator, is like, and even in this context, like make sure that something is always happening in the frame so that your eye doesn't get drawn to the thing that isn't happening or isn't moving or isn't, deliberately doing something else on the screen. And in this case, like you obviously knew, that. And I think seeing that 80s come in a different way too it's a really interesting intro.
Yeah, and it's this is the first 3 seconds of a TikTok, so you really do have to make it over the top.
Totally.
Okay, so I think I'm happy to leave that for now. The next part of the video, I'll unmute.
1,000 people who should be cast in an 80s Spider-Man movie.
So yeah, I asked 1,000 people to cast the new Spider-Man movie. So I think we might delve into After Effects for this part. There's
1,000 people.
I say 1,000, and I want this to count up from 0 to 1,000 to really, reveal how many people that is. So
awesome.
The way we'll do this is I'll just hit T and type 1,000. I'll change the font to my favorite font. 1,000. Okay. Make this way big, way smaller. Okay, so that's all we have to do in Premiere right now. All I've got to do is worry about how long it is. So
1,000 people who should be cast in an 80s
okay, I'm going to cut it after the 80s. So that's all we need here. Then we can right click this and press this beautiful button, replace with After Effects composition. And this will just open up After Effects and link everything that you're doing there over into here automatically. It's the best thing in the world.
It really is. It's I actually do have a question, because either I've been living under a rock or I just am doing something wrong. When you link between After Effects and Premiere, is there a way to unlink if you decided, okay, like this graphic isn't exactly what I wanted and I'd rather just edit these in Premiere? Or once you've linked those two together, you can't unlink them?
That's not a scenario I've had to be in, I guess, luckily. But I guess what you could do is, here I could have just duplicated it and only linked one of them.
Got it. Yep. Okay. That's kind of that's sort of the shortcut I've taken too. And I just didn't know if there was like something I was missing, but
yeah, I'm not sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So
for those that are just watching that, I mean, it's basically magic. You're linking After Effects and Premiere together so that any edits that Danny makes here in After Effects are dynamically being linked back to Premiere. So it saves you the hassle of having to open up another project and export and save and yada, yada, all the stuff.
Yeah, it's great. Okay. So I want to use, now, I guess actually what I'll mention first is I'm not by any stretch of the imagination an After Effects whiz. I really have only been delving into this the past couple of months, but there's a few things that I've been learning about, and one of them is the point slider. So we can use the point slider to scale up any number, or anything really. Oh, I don't know how okay, cool. So I will add the point slider, point control. Shit, my bad. Okay, point control to the text. Then, okay. if I alt click this stopwatch on the source text, it will open up the command or whatever it is here, and I've got a notepad ready. I guess I could throw this in the chat if that's not too messy for.
Sure. Yeah. This is basically an expression. So for those that are familiar with After Effects, this should be common knowledge. For those that aren't, it'll probably look a little bit more like a science experiment. But it's really, it's an expression it's easier to copy and paste it than it is to try to type it all in. So in this case, it maybe explain what this expression is actually doing to the text here.
So normally if you used a point control, okay, you know what I'll do is I'll delete it. And if I normally have a control, on this, then it can get very complicated in After Effects because now I'm getting confused with myself. Pretty much, if you don't include that expression, then After Effects will count up the text in just a really messy way with thousands of decimals, and it just won't be uniform, which is not what we want. So you have to use this expression.
And I have copied and pasted this expression so many times, even though I know exactly what I need to do. And so it's okay to use these kind of expressions and cheat and copy them in there, because the goal here, Danny, right, is to count from, a sporadic amount of numbers. So it looks like it's this huge counter of 0 to 1,000 without having a million decimals and making it super messy. Exactly. So the expression is to essentially round where it says math.round. That point control is taking the effect that you have and then rounding out the countdown. Yeah,
exactly. I don't think I will ever memorize this in a million years, but it's always there ready for me on my desktop.
I finished school a while ago. I don't really need to worry about that stuff.
Exactly. I don't need to learn that. So I've just set 2 keyframes here, one at 0, and then a couple seconds later at 1,000. And then I also hit F9 on this second keyframe just to ease it in a little bit. And pretty much that's it. What I'll do actually as well is I can make it 3D. So let's experiment with that while we're here. So I can now, all I've done is just hit this box to make it a 3D layer. If I drop down into the geometry options, I can change the renderer to Cinema 4D. Hopefully that doesn't crash me.
And is that essentially making Cinema 4D the render engine to render that 3D object?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure you can't make 3D text like I'm about to if you don't change it to this. So I can change the geometry options now and extend this extrusion depth out much further, like so. And then because it's too white, we can add a light. I'll change it to a spotlight. Yeah, that'll do. And already you see now we've got a bit of depth to the text. I will change it to 2 views. And maybe look at it transparent here. Okay, so we see kind of in 3D space now where this light is. I want it to be kind of at the top, looking down a bit. So like, look at that. And then I want another one behind. So I'll add another spotlight. And it can get quite confusing sometimes. So
and the 2 view is so that you can actually see essentially what's happening with that light being reflected and in real time.
If I was only focusing on this preview window, then I would have no idea what's going on.
Right.
Okay, so I'm just going to rotate this around. And I think what I might do is make this one a different color. So in the light options, I'll just change the color to, what we're doing with Spider-Man, make it red. Okay, so yeah, there's a hint of red now on the back side of this text, which I like. Intensity even further up, see what happens.
Man, for only using After Effects for a couple of months, you sure know your way around.
I kind of just do the same thing over and over. That's pretty much it.
Hey, that's okay. That's a good cheat code.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll go back to one view. And yeah, just simply now we've got a number counting up to 1,000 and it happens to be 3D. And the best part is if we go back to Premiere, look at it, it's right there. Okay, so I can tell now that the lighting is a bit off, but we don't have to save anything. We can just go here and move it in real time. Okay, I want to make current angle a bit bigger.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the best parts about this dynamic link too, is that you can really play around in here all day, like, and even that looks a lot better, rather than it probably saved you a good 5 minutes of export render and dragging it back into Premiere to, you know, add this. So I remember when this tool, it's a couple of years now that this tool has been, or this dynamic link has been a function in Premiere and After Effects, and it's been a game changer.
Yeah, and it was the way I was doing it all the whole time before, was export rendering, and you know, having to do it as like a QuickTime file, so it's transparent. You know, it's just, it was tedious. It was really tedious, but this is perfect now. Okay, so we've got this text counting up to 1,000. Maybe I will add some blur to it, so it starts quite blurry.
Laura in the chat is asking how you get started with learning the After Effects basics. Were there any courses on YouTube that you learned, or was it just from opening it up and playing around?
Yeah, well, most of what you're going to learn is just by really being inside the software and playing with it every single day. That nothing's really going to teach you as much as that. But yeah, there are plenty of YouTube courses and videos. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. I had a great one-on-one tutoring session with Evan Abrams, who's like an After Effects wizard, a few months ago, and that helped a lot. But YouTube really has a lot of excellent content out there.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I think it has to go hand in hand, like you were saying. I think YouTube is great to a point, because you can't learn by just watching. You have to actually get in there and do it. So yeah, when you're watching tutorials, keep After Effects open and go alongside. Don't just write stuff down, like actually get into the program. And
yeah, exactly.
Again, just using it every day is really how you get better with it. So
okay, so I've realized now, and it's not too late to change it, I want this to be center aligned, because it's currently aligned to the left. So let's center the text and then put it back in the middle. Oh yeah, that's an issue. Let's turn off the 3D layer.
So in aligning that, does that then change where the light would technically be hitting it? So you would then have to adjust?
Perhaps, yeah, that's probably the reason why.
Yeah, there you go.
So now it will be counting up in the middle. I have to put it back in the middle. Oh, come on.
Great questions, guys. Yeah, keep them coming. And we're about 40 minutes into the stream, and we're making some progress here. Danny is showing us how to make this hopefully viral TikTok video, and all the great techniques that go along with it. So if you're just joining us, you know, leave a couple questions. We're learning a lot here today.
Okay, so I'm going to add some animation to this. I've started it on 0 scale, so it's not there. And I'm going to go forward a few frames and raise it to about 90%. And I'll ease in this second keyframe. And then if I drop down this arrow here, it allows you to see like the time curves a little bit more clearer. So if I just drag this in, then okay, it's a bit ugly right now. I'm not really sure why that's happening actually.
Yeah, that's interesting because it almost looks like,
yeah, something's happening here.
yeah. Because it looks like the second part or the first part is aligned in the center, or the second part's aligned in the center, and the first part looks like it's maybe a left aligned.
Aha, yeah, you're completely right. Okay, I need to change it here.
Yeah, just, troubleshooting in After Effects.
Very smart.
One of the beautiful things of After Effects. There will be a lot of troubleshooting, but yeah, there you go.
Okay, got it. So 0, do that again. 0, 90. Ease in, drag this forward so it's got much more intensity, and it just,
there you go. Yeah,
comes into frame nice and smooth.
Awesome. Yeah, and that little adjustment that you just made there with those keyframes is something for those that actually are intimidated with After Effects. That's kind of like how I got my feet wet in just keyframing, was here in Premiere Pro, and in adjusting those the Bezier and the speed and velocity just through those, because you can really create a good looking animation in Premiere. I think in After Effects it is a little bit easier, but if you start there by jumping into After Effects, it doesn't seem as intimidating, right?
Yeah, that's exactly how I started as well. Okay, I'm going to go back down to 0 at the end.
Cool. Danny, are you using a Mac or a Windows PC?
Windows. Always been a Windows boy.
Okay, I had a feeling. It seems like there was some chatter in the chat about whether you're a Mac or a Windows, and honestly, like, you're moving so fast through After Effects and Premiere on a live stream that I'm like, I don't know. There's no way a Mac's going to handle that, except maybe now the new ones.
Can you see can you not see like my taskbar at the bottom?
No, I haven't seen anything. So.
Oh, yeah, I'm on PC. I've got I bought myself a new laptop last year. It's an MSI, and it's handled pretty well. Wasn't the most expensive laptop in the world, but yeah, it's really handled video editing perfectly.
Yeah, there's nothing more frustrating than a computer that doesn't have enough RAM or doesn't have enough power to actually do what you want to do.
Exactly.
And it stunts your creativity and ultimately the job you're supposed to do. So I'm in the market for something new as well.
Okay, I'm gonna go back down to blurry when it falls out of frame. Okay, I think what I want to show you guys, because it's like a hack in Photoshop. But so you'll see I've cut out all these actors on a transparent background. They're on PNGs. So the way I did this was in Photoshop. I guess we'll just open this up now. I could probably do this in 2 minutes, because Photoshop has recently, I don't know if it's been recent actually, but they've got a method now which makes cutting out subjects just the easiest thing in the world.
Yep. Yeah, I was on a stream at the end of last year where we went over a lot of those features, and hair is still always a bit of a touchy, harder thing to cut out, but it does a really, really good job getting you started.
Well, yeah, you've seen I've chosen a subject here which 5 years ago would have completely stumped me, but Photoshop now just automatically is amazing at it. So if I just got to select, then subject, you'll see that it just automatically selects the person so well. But if we go down and click select and mask, then we get a few toys to play with to make this selection even better. So what I'm going to use is the refine edge tool. So this just allows us to refine hair much nicer, get rid of all these white parts. And all I've got to do is just paint where I don't want the white to be. And you'll see it, it does it pretty much perfectly. It's kind of like magic.
There's so many tools in Photoshop and Premiere, but Photoshop specifically, that like for a while I was worried that like they remove a lot of the creative hand that you have in things, but this specific tool really, like, I think made a lot of people's lives significantly easier. And I think the more of those tools that exist and continue to evolve, it automates the process that really took a long time in the past.
Yeah, for sure. Because the less time I spend doing this menial task means I have more time to be creative later on.
Yep, absolutely.
And to be honest, this doesn't need that much, but yeah, this was just to showcase how I cut out a subject nowadays. I mean, I can't believe I was using the pen tool for years and years.
Yep.
But yeah, that's how we do it. And then once I'm here, I'll just hit this little button down here in the corner, and boom, you've got a transparent background. Make sure you save it as a PNG, and that's how.
Yeah, that looks great.
That's how we have all these people here now. So there's nothing I wanted to try, and that is some fake parallax.
Hold on, quick question for you, Danny. Sorry. So you imported all those PNG files into Premiere? Are those dynamically linked as well?
No, I imported these. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on an MSI GS66, by the way, which is a laptop. I've got an external monitor as well. Okay, so
the options are John Goodman and John Candy.
So I mentioned here John Goodman and John Candy. So I want to showcase these two men in a creative way here. So John Goodman standing in all his glory right there, as well as John Candy, if I can find him.
Such glory.
I will put John Candy underneath.
I also love the photos that you chose to include of them.
Yeah.
Like you could have picked anyone, but that's just such a classic John Goodman look.
Exactly. Okay, so John Candy is underneath. When do I say John Candy?
Goodman and John
Candy. Okay, so what I want to do here is build like a 3D world kind of completely inside Premiere. I know you can do this inside After Effects very easily, but I want to show how you can do it just in here. So all I'm going to do is now get a background image. I've got this New York from Adobe stock, by the way. Put that behind both actors. And turn this off now. Okay, so we've got a background. John Goodman can go scale him up, put him to the side. John Candy can go behind him.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Okay,
and this is all here just with the transform properties that are just in Premiere, right? Not even just the motion effects.
Just the motion effects. Okay, so what I want to do here is simulate the camera moving slowly forward as if it's going through 3D space. And I'm not going to do it using a fancy camera and 3D layers in After Effects. This is just going to be here. So if I turn off both of the subjects and I want to make sure, Yeah, so I've turned on the safe margins here just to know where the middle of the frame is, and I'm just going to keyframe this scaling in just a touch, not much. I want to be really subtle with it.
And
really subtle with it. Okay, so it's really not much going on there at all. I then do John Candy. Yep. And if I hit the motion parameter here, then all we need to do is change where his anchor point is and make sure it's in the same anchor point as the background. So the anchor point in the background was dead center in the middle of the frame. So what I can do is just drag this to the middle. And this time I'm going to scale him up again, but this time with a bit more. So like that roughly. And you can see now he's moving at a slightly different pace to the background, which gives a bit of depth to it. I can do the same thing with John Goodman. I'll push him like this. Just put the anchor points in the middle again. Keyframe him to move even bigger. In fact, I think that can go even further.
And something I noticed too, and a little hack, is as you're keyframing, you're dragging that second keyframe, the final one, out after you've already made that adjustment, so you don't lose it at the end of the clip, right? So like you might make that adjustment and actually pull it in a lot closer, so then you know where your keyframe actually lands.
Yeah, and of course in Premiere, if you've got a keyframe on the final frame, like if I go to it, you can't see it.
Right, it goes to the next clip.
So it's good to just drag it to where your playhead is. Okay, so we've got some camera motion here now, where I talk about Goodman and Candy.
Looks
and
great.
We will now add some Gaussian blur to these elements. So
one thing I do want to note too there that is why why you chose to keyframe each one of those as opposed to nest them, right? And like just keyframe everything as one motion. Clearly by you animating John Candy, John Goodman, and the background separately, it does create more of that like moving into space, and that anchor point's the same, because you could have very easily just nested everything as one layer and then maybe keyframed that, but it would have a different effect, right?
Yeah, because if I keyframed all of them together in one nested sequence, then it would feel flat. It's like you're looking at one picture moving forward.
Right.
This gives it the parallax, which is what we're going for.
Yeah, very cool.
So, okay, I'm just going to blur the background a lot. And then, okay, so I want to start with the focus on Mr. Goodman, and then it move over to Candy when I say John Candy. So when do I say John Candy?
John Goodman and John Candy.
Here. So I want it to start. I'll add blur to him again. Let's put full, okay. 15. Zero. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste these Gaussian blur settings onto John Goodman. And what I'll do is just swap the keyframes. So when one goes out of focus, the other goes into focus. So now you'll see there's a bit of change in focus. Now to just really incorporate them into the scene a bit, we need to do a bit of color correction. I'm not going to do anything crazy here, but just with the basic corrections sliders, you can usually do a decent enough job. I'll change the tint and the temperature and the blacks.
This is so cool because these are effects and techniques that I'm using in Premiere. Most times I'm in Premiere, but I've never used them in this way. And I think it's really cool to see. I think that's one of the best things about Adobe Live and about this sort of format is getting to learn from somebody else and see how they're being creative in a way that like I would not have even thought of. And it makes me smile because it's just it's why I think we're all doing this to really be creative and to kind of make our mark. And it's really fun. And I think you're doing an awesome job showing me some new techniques. And I've been doing this for 15 years. So
That's great to hear. Yeah,
cool.
100%. It's the great part about editing for TikTok, especially. It's what I found because you have to think outside the box so much to find ways of conveying a point visually. You need to always be thinking of ways to showcase something differently.
Definitely.
Okay, so yeah, that was a very simple parallax effect. Because now, if I put it with the audio,
The options are John Goodman and John Candy.
it goes into focus when I say John Candy, which is exactly what I'm going for. What else would I do to this? I think I might add like a film texture on top. I'm gonna create an in and out point.
Now, when you found the photos of John Candy and John Goodman, did you know that this was how you were going to actually incorporate them and place them? Because the way you have John Candy placed behind John Goodman, like the photo that you chose works really well with that idea. So did you already know that, or was that sort of just like a happy accident?
I didn't know I was going to do this exactly, but I think I always know that I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something like this in everything I make. So, yeah, normally one of the images you'll pick will just happen to be great for something like this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got what did that go? What I'm going to do now is just add this film texture on top. Oh, by the way, shout out to Dominic today. It's his 13th birthday. He's a follower of mine, and he's big into editing.
Awesome.
Want to wish him happy birthday.
Well, happy birthday, Dominic. If you're in the chat, please say hi. If not, I hope you have a great birthday.
Okay, so I'm just going to drag this. I've created a mask. I only want it to cover the edges of the frame, so I just invert the mask, whack that feather up a bunch, and I feel like I want to invert it. That way it makes the background black and the little speckles white. And I can put it on the screen blend mode. So we've got a bit of texture moving in the corners now.
That's
just
cool.
Again, it's all about, editing is just about stacking things up.
Yep. Yeah. And they're all fairly subtle, but you start to remove little effects and that really takes away from the parallax effect that you have here. So yeah, it's all little adjustments that really make the
That bring it together.
Yeah.
Okay. How about we talk about music? So normally
we had one question earlier actually in the chat about how you source that and where you get that from. So that's a perfect segue.
For the longest time, it was like I would just type in free to use copyright music, no copyright music on YouTube, because you can get decent stuff there. But recently, for the past few months, it's been Epidemic Sound, and I think they're kind of unmatched in quality of music. It's really, really good. So I get everything from Epidemic Sound, and if I usually try and match the theme of the video I'm going for. So I'm talking about the 1980s in this video. So I've downloaded this 1980s track. Loud apologies, but it's like classic 1980s synth pop.
I've used that song before in a video. It's so good.
Excellent. So I'll just drag this in, and we can talk about, I guess, how I loop music, because I like to make my TikToks loop. In this one, I haven't with my speech. I haven't looped the sentence, so I thought I'd try and loop the music just to give it a bit more, so the end and the start doesn't feel as so defined. So I want this 1980s. As soon as it goes 1980s, I want it to pop in with the loud music. So I'll just drag in so it drops about there. Okay, so chop it up here. And now I've just duplicated by alt dragging the same track to the very end here, like so. And I'm going to select both, and then press Control-Shift-D, which creates this constant power transition. I can just drag this out to be as long as I want and put it there. Okay, and so now if I set an out point at the end, if I make sure it's on loop, yeah, you'll see now that it seamlessly links the song back into the beginning. Like so, it's kind of a simple fade. Very simple, but yeah.
Yeah, that's an important step too, especially if you're trying to keep the viewers engaged and watch this video over and over again. I mean, how many times have you been in a loop of a video before you realize you're actually in a loop? And then I'm like, oh yeah, that person made that conscious choice to loop this video.
Yeah, that's the plan. Okay, so
I have one question regarding the music that you use in Epidemic versus TikTok's music. I know there's like some debate about whether using the music in TikTok is more highly searched and you're in more like trending hashtags on TikTok music. Do you find that because you use music from Epidemic Sound, you struggle with that, or not so much?
Sometimes I like to use a combination of the two. And so I'm definitely not opposed to using more than one track in a TikTok video. Sometimes in a 60-second video, I'll have 3 or 4 separate songs. And I will include, a viral sound at the very beginning, just to, people they recognize it, and then it will tune into something different. But I tend to find trying to use a TikTok sound, it feels like I'm trying to shoehorn it. It doesn't match the story which I'm trying to tell. Whereas I suppose, if I go on a sound library, I've got an unlimited library of finding something that perfectly fits the tone I'm going for.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I do find that it's a little limiting, and it sometimes, even if the sounds of TikTok are highly searched and more viral, they can get a little old. And so in picking and sourcing your own music from a site like Epidemic, like your style comes across more genuine and authentic than just choosing something because it's searched higher in TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think it's really that important using viral sounds. People really swear on it, but if a video is good, I think it will do well regardless. Yep. Okay, so what can we do here? So I guess it's time to mention the poll, like the actual poll results of each actor. So how do I say this?
Next up is Aunt May. Went with Mr. Goodman.
Mr. Goodman. Okay, so I mentioned the poll results here. I've got a bin. I'm going to drag in the results. Follow him on Instagram if you want to be involved in these sorts of things.
That's awesome.
And what I'm going to do is actually, I do have to think about how I want to incorporate this. I think I'm just going to use just the the poll results. So I'm gonna drag out this so I can see and zoom in a bunch.
Excuse me. So you kind of created these graphics as you were doing the poll previously. So you had a good idea of what that graphic would look like in doing the title today. And so like planned that out a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yesterday this all came to me, and so I've had a good 24 hours to think about how I want this to feel. And I've also found that people really care about fan casting. It was a really good way of getting some interactivity.
That's awesome.
Okay, so I'm just using the pen tool here to mask out this. I'm pressing Alt and dragging these ending handle things to slightly adjust the curves. Zoom in further.
Now, was this the first time you've done this kind of format where you've polled your audience, or have you done this in the past?
This was the first time. Sometimes I've done, more vague polls, like, do you listen to music when you're editing or do you not? But yeah, this is the first time with a specific reason.
Yeah, it's cool. And I feel like it can kind of open some more doors to like more interactive editing too, and letting your audience, provide more ideas of what they want to see and what you could actually create for them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's great. Okay, so we've masked out these poll results. What I will do, I did this earlier, but I'll do it again, is save the preset of this opacity mask, because I don't want to do that again. That was already too much work for me. I'm just going to call it mask poll result. That way, if I drag this in again, all I can do is This was an interesting result. Lisa Bonet won that.
Wow. Okay.
Mask bar result. I can just throw it on and it's already done it. Easy peasy.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, all these little time savers open you up to getting more creative, knowing that you're not going to spend, the next hour and a half doing the same thing you just did.
Yeah, I cannot advocate more for creating your own presets. It's the most important thing in the world.
Yeah, that's huge.
Okay, so I think for this, I'm going to do the same thing as earlier and add 3D, basic 3D. What's it like if I tilt it? Oh, I don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to have to nest this. Call it Goodman. That way, when I add the basic 3D effect, it's spinning this whole sequence as opposed to, you can't do it if you don't nest it.
Right. Yeah. And nesting, it's essentially you're grouping it, but now you're creating like its own identity, its own layer. So now in 3D space, you're not seeing all the other parts that you masked out on the other clip.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I'm just going to do the same thing as earlier. Give it a bit of swivel animation. Let's go. Okay. 0. Right click the 0.
Danny, when you're usually when you're editing and you're not on a 2-hour live stream for all to watch, are you usually editing to music? Got headphones on? Like, what's your vibe when you're at home?
This is something I've been doing recently the past couple of weeks. When I'm fully in the zone, I listen to pink noise. I tried listening to music for a while, but then I ventured into nature sounds. I like listening to like rainforests and stuff. But recently, it's just been, I need like just shh, and it keeps me focused for some reason. I don't like listening to outside sounds.
Yeah, too many distractions.
Yeah, I get distracted quite easily, actually.
The poll went with Mr.
Okay, so we've got a bit of swivel. I guess I can add some glow to this. So the way I would do that is duplicate it on top of itself and just add a Gaussian blur. Make it quite big like that. And then I can change the blend mode to something like screen. Let's change down the opacity so I can read it. Very subtle glow, but it's, yeah, again, it's all about stacking up things.
with Mr. Good.
Right, okay. I guess we can include some movie scenes. We're talking about Happy Hogan here, so I found a clip of Happy Hogan earlier. I've created an in and out point already using I and O, and actually I'll find another one. I want this shot of him eating his food.
I love how many assets and like different elements that you're using to build this. You know, you're bringing everything into the mix: titles, graphics, animations, you know, these 3D effects, found footage, photos. Like, it's really, and I think that is, for a minute, you know, you're jamming a lot in there, and I think that's why it's going to stand out and kind of have this appeal that you're going for.
Yeah, and I always find that I end up needing way more than I initially planned. It's always, it doesn't matter how much you have already. I end up having to find more stuff later.
I agree. I've always, I think that comes with years of doing it, but I think whether you're editing something like this or you're out shooting your own content, like I used to kind of overshoot, and I still sort of fall back on that part of my you know, cinematography, but I end up always needing more because the clips I'm using are significantly shorter than I even planned them being. So I think that goes for any kind of editing.
Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, just adding another clip here. Okay, I need to, what do I actually say?
First up,
I do have a question for anyone who's watching, and maybe for you as well, James.
Yeah. Please.
This is something I do every day, but like, is there a way of importing only the video or only the audio of something from your bin down here?
Yes. Yeah. So if you were to, doesn't look like you have it. So if you go to add to where your program window is right now, if you go to the plus icon, you should be able to add, I believe, so go down to the bottom right, the second to last one on the bottom right. Yep, one over, that one. Or no, that's comparison view. There is a way to just drag in your audio or your video, and I believe I thought it was in there. If I don't see it, I don't see it in there. And those are all the options you have, right?
Yeah, I don't see anymore.
If you're go into you're in your editing panel right now. So typically in your program window, there should give you the option, rather than dragging in the entire clip, you can drag in basically right where that playhead is, just either audio or video. And for some reason, I'm not seeing it on your window, but it might just be a little plugin.
Okay. Well, I'll look into that, because I wasn't even aware that was possible. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. And that is actually a big time saver too. So you're not having to unlink and then delete your video or your audio file. But if anyone in the chat knows exactly where that plugin is, please let us know.
When a quick time-saving thing I did a while ago is I set a keyboard shortcut to linked selection as the comma. So you'll see it's going off on and off here. And that way, I can just either have it on and move it about, or turn it off and move just the video.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and again, like the more you're in Premiere, obviously you're in it every day. The more you're in these programs, the more things you'll start to realize you use more often. So those keyboard shortcuts, I think when you're first starting out in Premiere, it's easy to be a little intimidated by it. But once you start really understanding the program, like use those keyboard shortcuts to your advantage and make them work for your workflow too. I think that's a huge, a pro tip, for someone who's been doing it a long time, and you as well.
Yeah. And don't feel forced to obey a keyboard shortcut because someone else swears by it,
Yep.
Do whatever feels natural.
Yeah. Maybe you have some really long pinkies or something and you got to reach
exactly
a different key. We don't know.
Okay, I'm going to include a couple movie scenes.
Uncle Buck, such a classic.
I've not actually seen this movie. Is it good?
It's a great movie. I was going to say, like, your knowledge of actors and actresses and this kind of genre is pretty solid. But if you haven't seen Uncle Buck, you should certainly watch it, especially after doing this.
I was going to do originally a 90s Spider-Man, but I realized I didn't know as many actors. Like I couldn't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's funny that you're more invested in the 80s, but I think it's actually a stronger comparison.
Yeah, it's mainly because I thought of Ferris Bueller as Spider-Man. I thought that would be perfect.
Yep. They really would.
First up is Happy Hogan. The options are John Goodman and John Candy. Both lovable, larger-than-life characters, but the poll went with Mr. Goodman. Next up...
It's coming together so well.
Yeah. And I think at this point, it's just rinse and repeat. So...
You know what I like, though, about that sequence, too, is that you could have easily just, like, chosen to have that parallax effect just carry that whole sequence, and instead of not adding clips from these movies, like I think that adds so much to it, and it also keeps things fresh too. Like you're not really, because by the time that first sequence is over, if you had no movie clips, people would get bored of this parallax effect. They'd be like, okay, like what's next? What else do we have here?
I really don't like to let anything play out for longer than like a second, really.
Yeah.
Okay, so next is Aunt May.
We have Audrey Hepburn and Julie Andrews.
Okay, so I have a bunch of actor scenes here. Audrey Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn.
And all these scenes, these are all just from YouTube, or they're just all kind of pulled like public domain, copyright free, or?
Usually my go-to for this is I'll type in, like, for example, here, I typed in Audrey Hepburn scene on YouTube, and in OBS, you can pause a recording. So I just recorded this, paused the recording, found a scene of Julie Andrews, played it again. That way it's all in one long recording, everything I need.
Cool.
I don't have to go through multiple clips.
Oh, that's huge.
Okay, so Audrey Hepburn.
Two very different directions here, and it was close.
It's close. Did you watch the new No Way Home?
I haven't. No, I'm a little behind right now, and I know I have to.
Yeah, I I made it certain that I watched it before this because I somehow managed to avoid spoilers before I watched it the other day.
Is it something that I should watch while I'm sick on the couch tonight?
Yeah, if you can. I mean, it's in the cinema, I think, still. I don't know if it's on Disney Plus or anything yet, but
I feel like everything is now just like, as long as you can pay for it from the comfort of your own couch, you don't really have to go to a movie theater.
It's true. Yeah, it was so good.
Okay, awesome.
I had really high expectations and they still exceeded them.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I'm a big Spider-Man fan, so I didn't want to say anything because I'm like, well, I'm sure he's seen it, and I don't want to act like the guy who hasn't seen what we're talking about here. But
you won't be let down. Okay, so that's Julie Andrews.
Different directions here.
yeah, Anna was asking about how you record those clips in the chat. Someone else said OBS. I believe OBS is one option. You can also use ScreenFlow. I think ScreenFlow you'd probably have to pay for if you want more of these clips, but there's a couple different options out there, and I'm not as familiar with OBS. So
OBS, yes, OBS is what I've been using for a while. It seems like it's the all-in-one package, and it's perfect for this type of thing. It records YouTube videos and screen records you know perfectly.
And it was close.
So Danny, what is your studio like in terms of soundproofing and sound dampening? Because I feel like that microphone is one thing, but you got to make sure you're in a room without echo and everything sounds so good in there.
Then I'm very impressed with this microphone then, because in my flat I have a window right here that can't be closed. It's always open.
Really?
Yeah, right above my head. So
well, I can't hear anything outside of the bedroom, so I would think that the entire room is wrapped in sound blankets.
That's really not the case. Normally when I record a video, I will get my duvet from my bed and just wrap it right over my head, and it's, you know, proper insulation. But now with this thing, it's really not needed.
Yeah,
it's an excellent job. I had a blue snowball for a long time. Yeah, it wasn't as good as this.
I think that's like a rite of passage. Everybody starts with a Blue Yeti or you know, and they're great mics, but yeah, there's something about upgrading a little bit, and it just makes making the videos a little more fun, because you know they just sound really, really crisp and really good.
Yeah, sound quality is you know, probably more important than visuals in a way.
Yep, agreed.
Okay, so I'm gonna now just throw on the same preset I made earlier.
So can you go back to that real quick, just so that I'm aware of it? So you masked out your pole, and then you just saved the opacity as the mask as a preset.
Yeah, all I did is just right click opacity and click save preset. That's it.
And because the mask sits under the opacity, like that's your preset. Yeah,
that's all it takes. Yeah,
it's very easy.
And I'm gonna
Audrey Hepburn as Aunt May.
And now, because you're kind of rinsing and repeating each of these sequences now, the idea is to try to copy and paste a lot of those effects that you have on some of the previous clips, so you're not doing them all over again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Excuse me.
I guess we could talk about subtitles in a second, because that's is that something someone talks about every time?
They're starting to. Yeah, I think the last couple times, but it's honestly, it still blows my mind. So I think everyone that is new here would love to go over that as well, because it really is another huge feature and a time saver.
Yeah, truly. Yeah, it's just like the Photoshop advances that Premiere captions on is insane.
So Danny, I have a question for you, a little more like forward thinking than what we're working on now, but I'm just kind of interested. So you said you're 21, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what's your goal, I guess, kind of like, you know, 5-year plan for creating videos, for video editing? Are you currently working professionally doing this and looking to do this more in the future?
Yeah, I'm doing freelance bits and bobs. I have been doing since I graduated last year. It's like the only thing really keeping me afloat. I would like ideally to abandon that shortly and work full time on my own content, but it's not sustainable at the moment. So I have to use my skills to help other people's projects, which is great, because I'd way rather be editing for other people making content, other YouTubers, other TikTokers, as opposed to being in like an editing or a post-production house and doing like little tasks for corporate things. That's really not what interests me whatsoever. I won't really want to be in this social media bubble.
Well, I think that's a great plan, and I mean, the luxury in today's world is that you have a lot of creators that obviously you're some that you're working with, and creators out there that are looking for editors like you and other, almost like a partner, to help with ideas and help create something for their own channel, and it just allows you more flexibility and freedom to do something cool instead of work for a post-production house. And I was in that world for a long time, and it's a little creatively draining, even if you're getting paid to do it. So if you can continue to keep the spark and creativity alive, then I'm sure you will continue to, work for yourself and continue to make your own projects.
Yeah, I have no idea what's in store for the future, but taking it one day at a time.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great attitude.
I'm just doing another basic version of that parallax I did earlier, just for this part.
Audrey Hepburn as Aunt May.
Just a really subtle zoom in on this pole.
Audrey Hepburn as Aunt May.
Okay.
I love that little just like flip backwards. It's like the perfect 3D effect that makes it look like a door has swung open way too far and has to retreat back.
Over rotate. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, how about we do something unique or something a little bit different? And so
this Oshman in the chat said, shout out, as Dodford helped launch my content. The packs made my DJ content invincible. That's awesome.
I like to hear that.
We love to hear that.
Okay, so let's do.
What about MJ? We have Molly Ringwald.
I'm gonna try something different for this one, just for the sake of it. Let's fiddle with a drawn-on circle. I use this in like every single video, and it's I'm kind of really inspired by the whole Netflix true crime detective serial killer type of documentary editing. Yep. And I find it leaks into my editing a lot, with the whole highlighting and circles. It's kind of Vox inspired as well. That's a really big inspiration of mine.
Okay. Like a lot of the like I feel like HBO and Netflix intro title sequences use that too, and like very Mindhunter-esque.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when it's a great style.
It is, and I never feel like it's overused because I like it so much. I watch it and I'm like, oh, I just saw something similar to that, but it is always done in its own way.
Okay, so
we have Molly Ringwald.
Let's get Molly Ringwald. I'm gonna. How about we make this look quite serial killer vibe? Maybe it's not what Molly wants, but
sorry, Molly, you don't have a say in the matter at this point.
No, not anymore. Okay, so what would be underneath this? I think let's try. Like a newspaper texture.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Give me newspaper behind anything. Throw
anything.
Just make it gritty. Oh, I like that.
It wants to be nice and grungy. Okay, so I can experiment with either making it look like she is on the paper. We can fiddle through the blend modes here. Normally, so these 5 here, they work by hiding the white pixels. So in something like this, can be what you're looking for, like multiply. Kind of looks like you're incorporating it into the. Okay, so I think it's a bit too severe with the newspaper. So I'm going to make a color matte and make it just a slight off-white and drag this underneath both. Then on the newspaper, I can, let's try something like overlay, or just want it to feel a bit more subtle.
Yeah, and in this case, in these blend modes, like because you're kind of going a little more, just like a different look than anything else in creative, like this is really subjective to what you want it to be. Like, I mean, even that's really cool too.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
obviously a
sometimes
different look, but sometimes you just play around with something and an effect hits that you're like, oh, I didn't really plan for that, but maybe I'll try it.
Yeah, for sure. I really recommend just scrolling through these blend modes because something will jump out at you.
Definitely.
Like maybe this, maybe hard lights. I think it's maybe a bit too much contrast. What happens if I drag that down a touch? Okay, and yeah, let's put a big circle around her face, see what happens. So I took a photo of some circles a couple months ago, and look, it's just Sharpie on white paper like that, easy peasy. And we drag it on top. Gonna choose, let's do this one. Gonna put the anchor point in the middle of this circle. Just make a mask so it's only this one. Then put it on multiply blend mode. Give it lots of contrast, really whack it up like this.
So cool.
Then all we need to do is, because we want this to look really Netflix inspired, add some tint and just simply change the black to red. Then scale it up like this. Maybe I'll rotate it. And suddenly we've changed vibes on this video. Very suddenly, but
I know. Oh my God, that's so cool.
Let's change this. So now we can add the radial wipe effect on top of this. And this just simulates like a clock wipe transition.
So is that sort of like Premiere's version of like a trim path in this situation?
Yeah, because you can't really do a trim path in Premiere. So this is just where we're cheating it.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna start with transition completion at 100%. Set a keyframe or the first frame. Move forward to the end, put it down to 0. Then ease in this one, and again, edit this keyframe with a bit more intensity. You will have to change the wipe center. Let me zoom out so it's in the right place. Make sure it's in the center of the circle. And you need to change the start angle as well, of course. I'll turn everything off so I can see.
Voodoo Val wanted to know, Danny, aside from true crime, what else inspires your work? Would you say that you're inspired by?
I like 90s movies. Most of my inspiration comes from music. Most of my video ideas come from a song, and then I branch out from that to see what I can tell from it. You know, I listen to I listened to Take the Money and Run, and that triggered, I love that song. And then that triggered, I thought I need to make something with this. So I started researching bank robberies, and made a video about the biggest British criminal heist in history.
That's awesome.
Just from the song.
That's really cool. I mean, that's like being inspired by music to a even more literal level. I find that if I'm inspired by music, I want to use that music for a video, but you're actually taking the lyrics and the meaning of a song and trying to then take it and turn that into an actual video, which I think is really awesome.
Yeah, taking it literally is, it's well, it's also an exercise for creativity as well, because if you're, it's kind of like a constraint as well. It's you're limiting yourself to try and really, it's making a music video in a sense. But it pushes you to really find what you want to say.
Definitely. Yeah. And I mean, that's such a huge, I think a lot of people fall out of finding their passion because they're putting themselves in too confined of a box. And something that I've learned here, and I'm going to be taken away as inspiration from you, is really looking at other ways to create that aren't maybe the more traditional narrative, and just having fun with it. And for those that are here in the chat and have joined us today, like that's a huge takeaway from what you've been teaching us today. And I think it's awesome.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. Laura's asked, do I upload on YouTube? I do. Recently, 2022, I'm uploading every single week. I'm going to try to, at least. On top of at least a couple TikToks per week as well. I made a video about Corridor Crew, if anyone watches them. I made a video about Corridor Crew this week, and
I just watched it before we got on the stream. It was awesome.
Yeah, and I got a comment from them as well, which was a great milestone already for me in 2022.
Sweet. Congratulations.
Okay, so I'm going to nest everything we've done here into one sequence, circle, I'll call it. That way I can just, I feel like adding a bit of perspective. Like this, maybe I'll, like that. Okay, we'll change the anchor point to, I always like zoom in onto people's eyes as the anchor point, just to keep people's eyes in the center of frame. And we'll keyframe this just to scale in a touch, like so. I'll render that, see what it looks like. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I definitely want to add some blur to this now. So an adjustment layer. And I've got a preset for this, but I'll do it from scratch. So normally all I do is just, I would do this on almost every single image I use in an edit. And it's just a Gaussian blur. Really put it up to like 15 or so, then create an oval mask, invert it, drag it so it's just the edges.
Man, it has such true crime vibes. I love it.
Cool.
That's so
that's
cool.
what we're going for. Mask out the feather.
I'm kind of sucker for anything on Netflix that appears as a recommended like murder, crime. I don't even know who the people are. I'm like, done. I'm watching it.
Exactly. I watched, one of my favorites recently was the Billy Milligan documentary, where he's got, like 25 personalities or something, and he's killed people and stuff, but it was fascinating.
Really? Okay.
It was really good. Okay, and then after this, just I'll add a vignette in Lumetri color. This just gives us a bit more focus, and then like the feather up. Okay, before I do that, one more thing. Now I'm just going to drag the film texture that I added earlier.
Yeah, such a cool, I mean, these techniques that you're using in Premiere Pro, if I were to just watch your finished video back and not know your process, like you could very easily think that a lot of this was done in After Effects. And I think that's obviously why you chose to do this today, because the power of Premiere is pretty crazy, that you're doing, you're creating animations in here and keyframes that, in legacy world were not really possible in Adobe Premiere Pro. And they make it a lot easier for someone who's intimidated to even open up After Effects.
Yeah, people underestimate Premiere Pro, I think. It's one of the main reasons that I've spent so much time in it is because I was scared. I was hesitant to go into After Effects. And so I spent a long time trying to work out how to do the things I wanted to without leaving this little window here.
Totally.
Okay. What else could we do? Let's try.
And Lisa Bonet.
Bonet.
So I just wanted to give you a heads up, just so you know, on timing. We got about 15 minutes left. So I think you're doing pretty good. I don't know if you want to try to go all the way through, or we can just, play around with some more of these creative techniques. These 15 minutes are all you, Danny. So feel free to use them however you'd like.
Yeah, let's try some creative techniques. I could do some captions, but I feel like most people know how to do that, and that's kind of boring anyway.
It is, yeah.
So let me watch back what we've done here.
No Way Home as an 80s movie.
Okay, so we've got the title.
We have our music in there.
Yeah, that After Effects count up feels like a decade ago.
Yeah, 1,000.
It's crazy.
1,000 people who should be cast in an 80s Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, these streams go by very fast. As the editor too, you don't realize how much you can get done in 2 hours, but it flies by. So
yeah, it flies by. What's your workflow like usually in terms of how much time you try to dedicate in bursts?
I kind of like flip flop. I really try, if I'm in a groove, like I just keep on a linear path and just keep going, keep moving forward. But I think in this case, like it's a bit of a different format than you're probably used to. So however, if you want to bounce around a little bit and try some other techniques, if you want to just keep moving through it, I think it would be cool to, watch as much of it back as we can and see everything with the music. And if we have a minute or two and you want to just briefly hit on captions, that's fine too. But I'm enjoying watching your process, man. It's cool.
Cool. I'm gonna try like one more. Let's fiddle around with some highlighting. Stick around the true crime type of thing.
Cool.
Let's just write down.
If I didn't know you were on a Windows, hearing that, I would totally know now.
There it is. Yeah, it's that and the USB plug in and out. It's iconic.
The infamous Windows sound. I do kind of miss it. I've been a Mac guy for a very long time, but I started as Windows way back in the day, and I'd have a hard time switching over now.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'd like to have from Mac is like iMessage integration onto MacBook, because moving things from my iPhone onto here is kind of can be a pain in the ass sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try.
And for those that are still in the chat, those that are joining late, we got about 10 minutes left on this stream. It's been an awesome one. I've been very inspired. So please ask Danny any more questions that you have before we run out of time today. We're going a little more true crime. It's cool because you'll create one effect and I can already see where it's going, which I think is a great start. Like you create that foundation right away.
Okay, so I'm gonna speed run this. Let's add a color matte with some yellow. I'm gonna drag this on top of the text. Change it to a multiply blending mode. Then I can uncheck this uniform scale button and drag it down. Just to fit the text. I think what I'm actually going to do is make this bright instead of, and then change this text to be black. And all you've got to do here is the crop effect. The crop effect is the best effect in Premiere.
Yeah, it's certainly one of them. Crop and transform.
Oh yeah. Start it at 100. Move forward to the end, down to 0. Easy in the second keyframe. Do this whole thing again. And yeah, Bob's your uncle.
I love it. Yeah, I mean,
And Lisa Bonet.
Yeah,
I think just the continuing to break the format. And I think like as an editor, traditionally you're taught, you know, in like the rule of thirds and the rule of threes and the rule of just like all these patterns that sort of need to be consistent throughout a video for it to feel cohesive. And I think one of the things I'm really enjoying about what you're creating today, and just your overall style, is that like you break a lot of these rules in a 1-minute video so that it surprises the audience over and over again and keeps them really entertained. And so I think that goes against what a lot of traditional editors have done, but it also like really keeps things creative and moves at a pace that there's a reason people are watching these, and I hope that they continue to, and I'm sure you will continue to make them.
That's cool. That's really nice to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
I'm just gonna render out what we've done. Just have a little look. There's a bunch of gaps in it because I've just sort of dotted back and forth, but you'll see what we've done.
Excuse me. Hey, and the Windows renders pretty quick for the amount of effects that you have in there. This is actually the first time I've seen the use of the 3D effect in Premiere. I've never actually used the 3D effect in Premiere, and it's certainly a tool I'm going to incorporate more because, you know, it is subtle, but it's a lot more powerful than I would even anticipate.
Oh, the whole parallax thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah, I overuse it probably. Okay, so with music.
Someone just asked in the chat, has Daniel saved his project yet, by the way? I believe I just saw it saved.
I'm spamming Control S after every single button of the mouse, so don't believe me.
Yep. any editor that has had a project quit on them as they're almost done has now just Control S is like part of their fingers.
Yeah, it's a habit. I don't even realize when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's watch what we've done. We'll have to color correct it and do some captions and fill in a bunch of the gaps, and it's only about halfway done, but let's have a look.
No Way Home. As an 80s movie, I asked 1,000 people who should be cast in an 80s Spider-Man movie. Let's take a look. First up is Happy Hogan. The options are John Goodman and John Candy, both lovable, larger-than-life characters, but the poll went with Mr. Goodman. Next up is Aunt May. We have Audrey Hepburn and Julie Andrews. Two very different directions here, and it was close. Audrey Hepburn as Aunt May. What about MJ? We have Molly Ringwald and Lisa Bonet. No.
There we are.
It's awesome.
2 hours work.
Man. You get 2 hours of work and you got a lot done in that time. And I'm just like, I'm entertained watching it, and that the music track is perfect too. I think like it's all very cohesive. And maybe while we probably got about 3 minutes, I'd say, of actual work. Do you want to just like maybe throw the captions our way, just so anyone who has questions about that can, especially for TikTok, yeah, sure. I know that's important.
Okay, so we'll go to the captions and graphics workspace. And actually, just before we do that, let's go to audio. Let's go to audio. I'm just going to select all of my speech and hit dialogue here. Then I'll go to captions and graphics. And here we can just hit transcribe sequence and click this button, audio clip as dialogue. And this should, normally with a good microphone, it will pick up what you've said word for word.
Yeah, it does a really good job of actually transcribing. Like the first couple times I did this, I certainly doubted the accuracy, but before Premiere implemented this, like I was going to third-party companies to transcribe stuff, and it was a mess. So now, I mean, it gives you the option to really,
I wonder if Adobe have put a bunch of companies out of business.
They might have. Yeah, it's quite possible.
So yeah, normally I'll go through and just change a few words here and there as an 80s.
Now, when you're
movie.
posting these videos on TikTok, are you always incorporating the captions, or just so that?
I try to. Yeah, I didn't for a long time, but then I started to find that videos with subtitles tended to do better. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
So many people are scrolling and they don't actually listen to anything. They just want to see, or I find that a lot of times I'll watch something, and if the captions stand out to me, then I throw my headphones in or I turn it up and try to actually watch the video back. So this is an important step just to get your video seen.
Yeah, there is a statistic. It's something like 75% of people watch the internet without sound.
Wow, man. And we're over here talking about how important audio and our microphones are, which they are.
Yeah, can't be understated.
It's pretty crazy. So once you have these captions, then you would essentially create that as a text file, or as like a CSV file.
Yeah, it just creates a preset and it automatically applies them to everything. I'm just going to say, for argument's sake, this is all correct. We'll hit create captions, and I like to do single and a maximum length of 23. I'm quite specific with this. I don't know why. Create.
Is that your lucky number?
Yeah, for some reason it tends to work. And yeah, we've created some captions here now automatically. I'll go back into the editing workspace.
Okay, yeah.
So they're way down here at the bottom, which is not what we want. In Essential Graphics, I'll go to Edit, hit this middle position caption, drag it down to roughly, I don't know, 2/3 down, and make it much bigger. The font I use on my TikTok is Mermaid. It's kind of my brand now, and I can't escape it. I'll make sure there's a big old shadow, and I usually add a background as well. I'll make this black.
And the reason you're going to drag it down 2/3 of the way is because TikTok prioritizes the caption, the text up from the bottom, right? So you want to make sure that the caption you can still read it, right?
Yeah, because this will be where like all the description and bio, everything is. So it needs to be above that.
Gotcha.
Some people have it above, but I don't really do that. Okay, so then all I need to do is just create a style. I'll call this Spidey. And yeah, automatically it's just added to all of them.
Awesome. Not the most fun part of the process, but still has some creativity to it. I mean, obviously your own font becomes kind of your identity and your brand, the same way Dodford has sort of turned into a bit of this, brand of yours. And, but I mean, I could honestly watch your process and learn from you all day. Danny, it's been awesome getting a chance to learn from you. And I know everyone in the chat has really enjoyed it as well. And if there are any other questions you have for the audience, we might have to wrap it up here, I think, in a minute or two.
No questions, but yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I guess I could do a couple plugs if that's cool.
Go ahead. Yeah, please.
So I've recently, this week, as of today, released a newsletter. It's for creatives, people who want to go into the creative industry, not necessarily to be an internet creator, but we're very social media oriented. It's me and 2 other friends. It's going to be a weekly newsletter. It's called Out West. You can find it at outwest.news. And yeah, we're just going to have weekly tips. We're not pretending to be self-proclaimed experts who are going to change your life, but it's, you can come on the journey with us as we work out what it takes to be, in this industry. Awesome. I'm an editor, and see, my progression every single week. I'll be talking about recommendations and all that good stuff. But
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Follow me on YouTube. I'm trying to post a video every week. So
absolutely. Well,
yeah,
I will be sure to subscribe to the channel, Danny. And again, glad to have you. Thank you to those in the chat. And hey, good luck, man, really, with everything. I think you've got a long creative career ahead of you. And for those watching, thank you so much for tuning in. And stay tuned for the Daily Creative Challenge coming up next with Jesse Showalter. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy 2022. And Danny, have a good one, man. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.